Commander Hyunwoo Kim stood at the observation deck of the massive space station. His hands pressed against the cold metal railing as he watched the alien ships gather in the distance. Each vessel was larger than anything humans had ever built. Some looked like floating crystals that sparkled with inner light. Others moved like liquid metal, changing shape as they flew. A few appeared to be made of pure energy, glowing bright against the black of space. This was the Galactic Council Station, the heart of power for 12 ancient alien races. Hyunwoo had been here for 3 months as Earth's military observer. He thought he was here to learn about their advanced technology. He never expected to witness the end of everything. The emergency signal had come just 6 hours ago. Every council member received the same terrible message. The void swarm had broken through the galaxy's outer defenses. Entire star systems were going dark. The enemy that had destroyed countless galaxies before theirs was finally here. Dr. So Young Park walked up beside him. Her face was pale as she stared at the alien fleet. "The readings from the outer rim are getting worse," she said quietly. 3 more systems went silent in the last hour. So Young was Earth's best scientist when it came to studying alien life. She had spent years learning about the different species in the council. She knew their languages, their customs, their fears. Right now, she looked more afraid than Hyunwoo had ever seen her. "What exactly are we dealing with?" Hyunwoo asked. So Young pulled out her datapad. The screen showed a map of the galaxy with red dots marking dead systems. "The void swarm isn't like anything we've seen before. They don't just destroy planets. They eat them. They consume all matter and energy, then use it to make more of themselves." Hyunwoo studied the pattern of destruction. The red dots formed a rough line moving inward from the galaxy's edge. "How fast are they moving?" "Faster than our best ships. Faster than the Council's best ships." The Velati tried to evacuate their border colonies. The swarm caught them before they could escape. The Velati were one of the oldest races in the Council. They had technology that could move planets. If they couldn't outrun this enemy, what hope did anyone have? A deep tone echoed through the station. It was the call for an emergency council session. Hyunwoo and So Young made their way to the central chamber. As Earth's representatives, they were allowed to observe but not speak. Humans were still considered newcomers after 200 years. The council chamber was a vast sphere with representatives floating at different levels. The Velothi High Crystallographer hung in the center, its crystal body pulsing with nervous light. Around it, the other species gathered. The Corvini looked like beings made of living lightning. The Zhek moved as one mind in many bodies. Each race had ruled space for thousands of years. "Fellow beings," the crystallographer's voice rang out in perfect translation, "we face extinction. The void swarm has consumed 47 systems. Our combined fleets cannot stop them. We must make a choice." Elder Keth 9 of the Corvani flickered with angry energy. "Our choice is simple. We evacuate the core worlds. We abandon the outer territories. We survive." The Zhek Collective spoke as one voice. "Survival requires sacrifice. The outer rim is lost. We save what we can." Hyunwoo felt his stomach drop. Earth was in the outer rim. So were the human colonies on Mars and Europa. The Council was talking about abandoning them. Admiral Dongmin Lee's voice crackled through Hyunwoo's communicator. The Admiral was back on Earth, watching the proceedings through a secured channel. "Are they saying what I think they're saying?" "Yes, sir," Hyunwoo whispered back. "They want to abandon Earth." The debate continued for hours. Each species presented the same conclusion. The void swarm was unstoppable. The only logical choice was to retreat to the galaxy's center and hope the enemy would be satisfied with the outer territories. Finally, the crystallographer called for a vote. "All in favor of Operation Last Haven?" One by one, the species agreed. The final vote was 11-0 with 1 abstention. The humans weren't allowed to vote. "It is decided," the crystallographer announced. "All outer rim populations will be relocated to temporary facilities in the core systems. The evacuation begins immediately." So Young grabbed Hyunwoo's arm. "Temporary facilities," she said bitterly. "They mean refugee camps. They're going to pack millions of humans into mining stations and prison worlds." The session ended, and the representatives began to disperse. But the crystallographer approached the human observation platform. Its voice was almost gentle. "Young ones, we know this is difficult. Your species has potential, but you lack the technology to fight this enemy. Accept relocation. Live to see another day," Hyunwoo found his voice. "What if we choose to stay and fight? The alien's crystal body dimmed with what might have been sadness. Then you will die. The swarm has destroyed species far older and more advanced than yours. Your courage is admirable but pointless. Back on Earth, Admiral Dongmin stared at the reports coming in from the outer rim. The Void Swarm was 3 days away from human space. The Council's evacuation ships would arrive in 2 days. Every human leader was faced with the same impossible choice. Engineer Ji-Hai Choi worked frantically in her laboratory beneath New Seoul. For months, she had been studying captured pieces of Council technology. She had ideas, crazy ideas that no sane engineer would attempt, but maybe crazy was exactly what they needed. Her hands flew over the holographic controls as she ran simulation after simulation. The numbers were terrible. Human ships were primitive compared to the Council fleets. Human weapons were simple fusion devices while the aliens used pure energy manipulation. By every logical measure, humanity had no chance. But Ji-Hai had noticed something strange in the data. The Council races all fought the same way. Their battles were precise, mathematical, predictable. They calculated every move and chose the most efficient solution. It had worked for 50,000 years. Maybe that was the problem. Admiral Dongmin's voice echoed through the emergency broadcast to every human world. Citizens of Earth and the colonies, we have a choice to make. The Galactic Council offers us evacuation. They promise safety in exchange for abandoning our home. The Admiral paused, staring directly into the camera. I've read their offer carefully. They want us to become refugees under their protection. They want us to give up everything we've built and trust them to take care of us. Across human space, families gathered around their screens. Children held their parents' hands. Scientists stopped their experiments. Soldiers stood at attention. The Council believes this enemy cannot be defeated, the Admiral continued. They may be right, but Earth has never run from a fight. Earth has never abandoned its own. If we're going to die, we'll die as humans, fighting for our home. The transmission ended, leaving billions of humans with the most important decision in their species' history: stay and fight an impossible battle, or accept exile and the death of everything they had built. In space, the alien evacuation fleets prepared to enter human territory. They expected grateful refugees eager to escape certain death. They had no idea they were about to meet the most stubborn species in the galaxy. Ambassador Young-hee Lim walked into the Council chamber with steady steps. Her simple blue uniform looked plain next to the elaborate forms of the alien representatives. She carried no weapons, no guards, just a small data pad with Earth's response to their evacuation offer. The Velathi crystallographer's body pulsed with impatient light. Young Ambassador, time grows short. The Void Swarm approaches your territory in 36 hours. Our evacuation ships await your people. Young-hee looked around the chamber at the 12 ancient species. Each one was thousands of years more advanced than humanity. Each one had already accepted defeat. She smiled, which seemed to confuse several of the aliens. Honored Council members, Earth thanks you for your generous offer, she began. However, we must respectfully decline. We will be staying. The chamber fell silent. Several species exchanged what might have been confused looks. The Corvani elder flickered with agitation. Ambassador, perhaps you misunderstand. The evacuation is not optional. It is necessary for your survival. We understand perfectly, Young-hee replied. Earth chooses to remain and defend our territory. The Zhek collective spoke in unison. Impossible. Your species lacks sufficient technology. Your ships cannot penetrate swarm defenses. Your weapons cannot damage swarm entities. Mathematical probability of human victory: 0. Young-hee's smile grew wider. We appreciate your calculations, but humans have never been very good at math. Back on Earth, Captain Tae-ho Yoon stood in the center of humanity's most classified research facility. Around him, teams of scientists and engineers worked with desperate speed. They had been preparing for this moment for months, ever since the first reports of the Void Swarm reached human space. Dr. Min Seo Kang looked up from her quantum computer array. Her hair was messy from 3 days without sleep, but her eyes were bright with discovery. Tae-ho, you need to see this. The captain walked over to her station. The screen showed complex mathematical formulas that hurt to look at.
What am I looking at?
Remember how the Council species all fight the same way? Perfect formation, calculated attacks, logical strategies. Min Seo's fingers danced over the controls. I've been studying their battle records. Every engagement follows predictable patterns, Tae-ho nodded. They've perfected the art of war. Exactly. And that's their weakness. Mincio brought up a new display showing Void Swarm attack patterns. Look at this. The swarm adapts to whatever it faces. It learns, it evolves, it counters. But it can only counter things it understands. The captain studied the data. What are you saying? I'm saying that for 50,000 years, every space battle in this galaxy has followed the same basic rules. The same tactics, the same strategies, the same logical approaches. The swarm has learned to beat all of them. Mincio pulled up human military history. Videos of ancient battles filled the screens. Chaotic, messy, unpredictable fights where desperate humans used whatever they could find. But humans fight different. We don't follow rules. We improvise. We get creative when we're scared. Engineer Ji-Hai Choi appeared at Tai-Ho's shoulder. She looked exhausted but excited. The weapons tests are complete. The chaos generators work. Chaos generators? Tai-Ho asked. Ji-Hai grinned. Council technology is all about control and precision. Perfect energy beams, calculated trajectories, exact measurements. So I built weapons that do the opposite. She led them to the testing chamber where a strange device hummed with unstable energy. This weapon doesn't aim properly. Its power output changes randomly. Its energy pattern shifts every few seconds. By council standards, it's completely broken. And? Tai-Ho prompted, and it works. The test simulations show that unpredictable weapons confuse swarm adaptive systems. They can't figure out what to defend against, Colonel Junsik. Oh joined the group. His military uniform was crisp despite the chaos around them. All civilian combat training is complete. Every human settlement now has militia units. Every colonist knows how to fight. This had been one of Earth's most controversial decisions. While the council species kept their civilians far from combat, humans had trained everyone. Children learned to shoot. Grandparents learned to pilot ships. Teachers learned to build bombs. The council thinks we're crazy, Junsik continued. They can't understand why we would arm our entire population. Tai-Ho looked around at his team. Scientists who had become weapons designers. Engineers who had become soldiers. Civilians who had become warriors. Maybe crazy is what we need. Commander Hyunwoo's voice crackled through the communication system from the council station. The alien evacuation fleet is entering human space. They're not taking no for an answer. On the main screen, the approaching council ships looked like a rescue fleet. Hundreds of vessels designed to carry millions of refugees to safety. They expected grateful humans fleeing their doomed world. Admiral Dongmin's response was broadcast on all frequencies. Council Evacuation Fleet, this is Earth Defense Command. We appreciate your concern, but evacuation is not necessary. We suggest you maintain safe distance from our territory. The Velothi Fleet Commander's reply was patient but firm. Earth vessels, you do not understand the threat you face. The Void Swarm will arrive in 18 hours. Accept evacuation while time remains. Negative, Council Fleet. Earth stands. The alien ships moved closer, preparing to begin forced evacuations. They had protocols for dealing with panicked populations who didn't understand the danger. They expected resistance from scared humans who didn't want to leave their homes. They didn't expect every human ship in the system to power up weapons and move to intercept them. The standoff lasted 3 hours. Council ships designed for rescue found themselves facing an entire human fleet ready to fight. The aliens had better technology, but the humans had something the Council had never seen before. An entire species willing to die rather than abandon their home. Finally, the Velothi commander sent one last message. Earth, you choose extinction. We cannot force salvation upon you. May your sacrifice have meaning. The Council evacuation fleet withdrew, leaving humanity alone to face the approaching darkness. Dr. So-Young monitored long-range sensors from her laboratory on Luna. The readings made her hands shake. The Void Swarm was massive beyond imagination. Millions of entities moving through space like a living storm. Where they passed, stars went out. Planets simply vanished. But buried in all that terrifying data, she found something interesting. The swarm moved in patterns. Complex patterns, but patterns nonetheless. It flowed like a liquid, each part coordinating with the whole. It was beautiful in its terrible precision, and anything with patterns could be disrupted. Engineer Ji-Hai's voice came through the intercom. So-Young, I need your biological data on the swarm entities. I think I found a way to make them vulnerable. What kind of way? The kind that would get us kicked out of the Council for being too violent. So-Young smiled grimly as she uploaded her research. Around her, Lunabase hummed with activity, humans preparing for a battle that every rational being said they couldn't win. But rationality had never been humanity's strongest trait. Admiral Dongmin stood on the bridge of Earth's flagship, watching the final preparations. In 12 hours, the Void Swarm would reach human space. Every ship was ready. Every weapon was charged. Every human was prepared to fight. The alien council members were right about one thing. Humanity didn't have the technology to win this battle. Their ships were slower, their weapons weaker, their defenses thinner. But the council had made one crucial mistake. They assumed that superior technology guaranteed victory. They forgot that evolution had spent millions of years teaching humans how to fight impossible odds. They forgot that humans were really, really good at being stubborn. Lieutenant Kyung-ho Seo gripped the controls of his fighter as the first Void Swarm scouts appeared on his sensors. They looked like tears in space itself, dark shapes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. His squadron of 12 fighters felt very small against the approaching darkness. "Phoenix Squadron, this is Control," came the voice from Earth Defense Command. "You are cleared to engage. Show them what humans can do." Kyung-ho's heart pounded as he pushed his fighter toward the enemy. Behind him, his wingmen followed in loose formation. They had trained for this moment, but training was different from facing creatures that had destroyed entire civilizations. The first swarm scout was the size of a small ship. It moved without engines, drifting through space like a living shadow. Council records said these things couldn't be hurt by normal weapons. Energy beams passed right through them. Kinetic weapons had no effect. "Targeting first scout," Kyung-ho called out, engaging with chaos rounds. His finger pressed the firing stud. Instead of the precise energy beams that council ships used, his weapons fired bullets filled with unstable fusion plasma. The rounds tumbled through space in erratic patterns, their energy signatures changing randomly. The first shot missed. The second shot missed. The third shot hit the swarm scout dead center. The creature twisted as if in pain. For a moment, its dark surface flickered with strange colors. Then it exploded in a burst of dispersed matter. "Control, this is Phoenix Leader. Confirmed kill on Swarm Scout. Repeat, confirmed kill." The communications channel erupted with cheers from across the human fleet. For the first time in galactic history, someone had destroyed a Void Swarm entity. Dr. Hee-Jin Nam watched the battle from her research station on the moon. Her sensors tracked every detail of the engagement. The data was incredible. Human weapons were actually working against creatures that existed partially outside normal space. "How is this possible?" she muttered, running calculations on her quantum computer. The answer appeared on her screen in mathematical terms that made her gasp. The Void Swarm entities maintained their existence by keeping perfect dimensional stability. They existed in multiple realities at once, which made them immune to weapons that operated in just one dimension. But human weapons weren't precise enough to stay in one dimension. The chaos generators that engineer Jihai had built actually caused the weapons to randomly shift between dimensional phases. This created resonance patterns that disrupted the swarm's stability field. In simple terms, human weapons were so unpredictable that they confused the enemy on a quantum level. General Wonshik Bey coordinated the defense from Earth's command center. Thousands of screens showed human ships engaging swarm scouts across the outer system. The pattern was becoming clear. Human fighters could damage individual entities, but there were millions more coming. "Sir," called Ensign Yuri Hong from her communications post. "The main swarm fleet just entered our sensor range. Estimated arrival in 6 hours. Wonshik studied the tactical display. The main swarm force looked like a dark storm cloud stretching across light years of space. Each dot on the screen represented thousands of individual creatures. The math was simple and terrifying. Even if every human shot killed a swarm entity, they would run out of ammunition long before making a real dent. But General Wonshik had not gotten his rank by accepting defeat. "Signal all ships. Begin Operation Chaos Storm." Commander Hyunwoo watched the battle unfold from his position aboard the Council observation ship. The alien representatives seemed stunned by what they were seeing. Humans were actually fighting the Void Swarm and winning individual engagements. "This is impossible," the Valathi crystallographer kept repeating. "Our analysis shows zero probability of success for primitive weapons." Dr. So Young stood beside Hyunwoo, her data pad filled with readings from the battle. "Your analysis assumes logical combat patterns. Humans don't fight logically. The Corvani elder flickered with confused energy. How can chaos be more effective than precision? Because, So Young replied, the swarm has spent millions of years learning to counter every logical attack pattern in the universe. But it's never faced anything truly random before. On the tactical display, human ships moved in patterns that made no sense to the watching aliens. Some fighters flew in spirals, others moved in random directions. A few seemed to be flying backward while shooting sideways. No formation held for more than a few minutes before changing completely. The swarm entities tried to adapt, but every time they predicted a human movement, the humans did something different. Their hive mind, which had conquered countless galaxies through perfect coordination, couldn't process the beautiful chaos of human combat. Lieutenant Kyung-ho led his squadron in a completely impossible maneuver. They flew straight at a cluster of swarm entities, then scattered in 12 different directions at the last second. Half the pilots fired while upside down. 2 of them actually flew through the enemy formation while shooting behind them. By every rule of space combat, it should have been suicide. Instead, it destroyed 17 swarm entities and left the survivors so confused, they stopped moving for precious seconds. Colonel Hana Yang watched the fighter battle from the bridge of her marine transport ship. Her job was supposed to be boarding enemy vessels, but how do you board creatures made of living darkness? Colonel, called her sensor operator, I'm reading something strange. The swarm entities that get hit by our weapons, they're becoming solid. Hana looked at the display. Damaged swarm creatures were indeed showing up as solid matter on their scanners. The quantum disruption caused by human weapons was forcing them into normal space-time. Prep the boarding shuttles, she ordered. If they want to become solid, we'll treat them like any other enemy ship. Her Marines looked at her like she had lost her mind. But they had trained for impossible missions. They strapped on their armor and checked their weapons. If their colonel wanted to board alien monsters from outside reality, they would follow her. The first boarding action in human history against the Void Swarm began 20 minutes later. Colonel Hana led her team through the hull of a damaged swarm entity that flickered between dimensions. Inside, they found corridors that twisted through impossible angles and rooms where gravity pointed in different directions. The Marines adapted by not trying to understand it. They moved forward, shooting at anything that moved, using their suit thrusters to fly when walking didn't work. Their human brains, evolved for chaotic environments, handled the dimensional shifts better than any logical mind could. Control, this is boarding team Alpha, Hana reported. We have secured the target. Repeat, we have taken control of a swarm entity. The news spread through the human fleet like wildfire. Not only could they destroy these creatures, they could capture them. Dr. So Young's analysis of the captured entity revealed even more incredible news. The quantum field generated by human consciousness actually created a stable reality bubble around them. Wherever humans went, normal physics followed. We're not just immune to their dimensional tricks, she told Commander Hyunwoo. We actively force them back into our reality. Human beings are walking weapons against the Void Swarm. The battle raged for 18 hours. Human fighters darted between massive swarm entities like angry insects. Marine boarding teams captured node after node. The human fleet took heavy casualties, but for every ship lost, they destroyed dozens of enemies. And then something unprecedented happened. The Void Swarm began to retreat. Ensign Yuri Hong could barely believe her sensor readings. Sir, the enemy is withdrawing. Repeat, the swarm is falling back. General Wanshik stared at the tactical display. The dark cloud of swarm entities was actually moving away from Earth. For the first time in its existence across multiple galaxies, the Void Swarm had met an enemy it couldn't easily digest, but their retreat triggered something even more dangerous. Deep space sensors detected massive energy building up at the galaxy's core. The swarm was preparing its final protocol. If it couldn't have the galaxy, it would destroy it completely. All ships, General Wanshik broadcast to the human fleet. The enemy is retreating to the galactic center. Long-range sensors show they're preparing some kind of super weapon. We have 48 hours before they collapse the entire galaxy into a black hole. The human fleet regrouped around Earth, their ships battered but victorious. They had done the impossible. They had made the Void Swarm retreat. But now they faced an even greater challenge. Admiral Dongmin's voice came through on all frequencies. People of Earth, we have proven that humans can fight the Void Swarm. Now we must prove that humans can save the galaxy. The plan that followed was so audacious that even the watching council representatives called it insane. Humanity would take their entire fleet and assault the galactic core directly. They were going to war against gods, and they were going to win. Admiral Subin Ryu stood on the bridge of the massive human dreadnought Indomitable as it emerged from hyperspace near Mars. Behind her, the largest fleet in human history assembled for the impossible journey to the galaxy's core. Every ship that could fly had answered the call, from massive battleships to small cargo haulers converted for war. "Ma'am," called her navigation officer, "the outer colony fleets are reporting in. We have 50,000 vessels ready for the assault." Subin nodded grimly. 50,000 ships sounded impressive until you considered they were facing an enemy that controlled the entire galactic center. The Void Swarm had withdrawn to regroup around the supermassive black hole that held their galaxy together. If the creatures succeeded in destabilizing it, everything within 100,000 light-years would be crushed out of existence. Dr. Chang Wook-im hurried onto the bridge carrying a case full of his latest weapons. His hair was wild from weeks of non-stop work, but his eyes gleamed with the satisfaction of a scientist who had just broken the laws of physics. "Admiral, the new disorder cannons are ready for deployment," he announced. "I've managed to make them even more chaotic than the previous models." "How is that possible?" Subin asked. Chang Wook grinned like a madman. "I stopped trying to control them at all. These weapons literally don't know what they're going to do until they fire. The targeting computers make random decisions. The power output changes every microsecond. The energy frequency shifts through the entire electromagnetic spectrum." He opened his case to reveal devices that looked more like abstract art than weapons. Each cannon was a twisted mass of metal and crystal that seemed to hurt to look at directly. "By every engineering principle, these things shouldn't work," Chang Wook continued. "But that's exactly why they're perfect against the swarm." Lieutenant Wu Jin-cho looked up from his tactical station. "Sir, we're receiving updates from the advanced scouts. The enemy has constructed some kind of massive structure around the galactic core. It's bigger than most solar systems." The main screen showed long-range sensor data from the galaxy's center. The image was barely comprehensible, a web of dark matter stretching across space with tendrils reaching toward the central black hole. Millions of swarm entities moved along the structure like blood cells through veins. "What are they building?" Subin asked. Chang Wook studied the readings. "It looks like a dimensional anchor. They're going to use it to drag the black hole into hyperspace. When it emerges, the gravitational shock will tear apart everything in the galaxy." The plan was as elegant as it was terrifying. Instead of slowly consuming systems one by one, the swarm would destroy everything at once and feast on the remains. Colonel Hana Yang finished briefing her Marine commanders in the ship's cargo bay. Around them, thousands of soldiers checked their equipment one final time. Each Marine wore armor designed to function in chaotic dimensional space. Each carried weapons that fired pure quantum uncertainty. "Remember," Hana told her officers, "we're not fighting a normal enemy. These creatures exist in multiple realities at once. Don't try to understand what you see. Just keep moving forward and shoot anything that doesn't look human." Major Sung-Hwan Moon raised his hand. "Colonel, what if we encounter spaces where physics doesn't work?" Hana smiled coldly. "Then we make our own physics. Human stubbornness beats alien mathematics every time." The Marines laughed, but they all knew the truth. They were heading into spaces where reality itself might not function. Their only advantage was that human minds had evolved to handle chaos better than any logical species could. Fleet Admiral Jin-Ho Park coordinated the massive operation from Earth's command center. The holographic display showed human ships gathering from across the solar system. Factory ships, exploration vessels, even luxury cruise liners had been converted for war. "Admiral," called Communications Officer Yuri Hong, "we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. They want to speak with you." The main screen flickered to show the Velothi crystallographer and representatives from all 12 council species. They looked more terrified than Jin-Ho had ever seen aliens look. "Human Admiral," the crystallographer began, "our sensors detect your fleet movements. Surely you do not intend to assault the galactic core directly." "That's exactly what we intend," Jin-Ho replied calmly. The Corvani elder flickered with agitation. "Impossible. The journey alone will take weeks. The swarm will complete their weapon long before you arrive." "We're not taking weeks," Jin-Ho said. "We're taking 6 hours." The aliens exchanged confused signals. The Zek Collective spoke in unison. "Explain." Human technology cannot achieve such velocities. Dr. Yun-Young Kim stepped into view beside the Admiral. Her quantum mechanics expertise had been crucial to developing humanity's newest breakthrough. We're not using conventional hyperspace, she explained. We're using chaos jumps. The alien representatives looked even more confused. Chaos jumps were theoretical at best, considered impossible by every rational species. The idea was to deliberately destabilize a hyperspace field and ride the resulting dimensional storm. Most scientists considered it a fancy way to commit suicide. The calculations required are beyond any computing system, the crystallographer protested. Yun-Young smiled. We're not using calculations. We're using intuition, it was true. Human pilots had been training to navigate chaos jumps by feel rather than mathematics. They learned to sense dimensional currents the way ancient sailors felt ocean winds. It was completely unscientific and absolutely effective. The first wave of human ships disappeared into hyperspace with a brilliant flash. Instead of the smooth, controlled jump that council ships used, the human vessels tore holes in reality and dove through the resulting chaos. Half the fleet vanished in seconds. 6 hours later, they emerged in the galactic core like bullets fired from a giant gun. The Void Swarm's sensors, designed to detect logical approach patterns, completely missed their arrival until human ships were already firing. Captain Bora Shin piloted her fighter through the massive enemy structure, weaving between tendrils of dark matter that reached across space. Her ship's weapons fired in random bursts, each shot disrupting the careful dimensional balance that held the structure together. This is insane, she muttered to herself, as she flew upside down through a corridor that existed in 7 dimensions at once. I love it. Around her, thousands of human fighters swarmed through the swarm's construction like angry wasps. They had no formation, no plan, no coordination, except the basic human instinct to destroy anything that threatened their home. The swarm entities tried to adapt, but human tactics changed too fast. Every time the hive mind thought it understood human behavior, the humans did something completely different. Some pilots flew straight into enemy formations, others attacked by flying backward. A few actually rammed their ships into swarm entities while their pilots teleported to safety. Major Seung-Hwan Moon led his Special Forces team through the heart of the enemy structure. They moved through spaces where gravity pointed in impossible directions and time flowed at different rates. His soldiers handled it by treating it like any other hostile environment. Charges set, called Sergeant Kim as he finished placing quantum explosives on what might have been a support beam. This whole section will collapse into normal space-time when they detonate. The human strategy was simple. Force the swarm's dimensional construct back into normal reality where it could be destroyed by conventional means. Every explosion created a bubble of stable physics that spread outward like a virus. Dr. Yun-Young monitored the battle from her command ship. The readings were incredible. Human quantum signatures were actually rewriting the laws of physics in the enemy structure. Wherever humans went, chaos followed, and chaos was exactly what they needed to disrupt the swarm's perfect order. Admiral Jin-Ho, she called out. The dimensional anchor is starting to destabilize, but we need to hit the core before they can complete the black hole transfer. The core of the enemy structure was a sphere of pure dark matter suspended in hyperspace. It pulsed with energy that could crack planets. Getting close to it would require flying through dimensional storms that would tear apart any normal ship. Captain Bora volunteered immediately. I'll take the chaos generator in. My fighter's small enough to navigate the dimensional maze. It's a one-way trip, Admiral Jin-Ho warned. Bora grinned. Then I better make it count. She dove her fighter toward the core carrying Dr. Yun-Young's chaos generator. The device was designed to broadcast pure human consciousness on a galactic scale, creating a reality storm that would scatter the swarm across infinite dimensions. As she flew deeper into the enemy structure, reality became increasingly unstable. Her instruments showed impossible readings. Her fighter existed in multiple places at once, but Bora's human mind adapted to the chaos better than any logical computer could. She reached the core just as the swarm completed their weapon. The black hole began to shift toward hyperspace, its gravitational pull already tearing apart nearby stars. For Earth, Bora whispered, and activated the chaos generator. The explosion of pure human consciousness tore through the swarm's perfect order like a hurricane through a house of cards. Across the galactic core, Swarm entities screamed as their dimensional stability collapsed. The E! Captain Bora Shin felt her fighter dissolve around her as the chaos generator reached full power. She existed in 17 different dimensions at once, her consciousness scattered across realities like drops of water in an ocean. Through the expanding storm of pure human thought, she watched the void swarm tear itself apart. The creatures that had consumed galaxies for millions of years simply couldn't handle true randomness. Their hive mind, which had perfectly coordinated the destruction of countless civilizations, shattered like glass against the chaotic beauty of human consciousness. Across the galactic core, swarm entities flickered out of existence as they lost dimensional cohesion. But even as victory approached, Bora realized the terrible truth. The chaos generator was working too well. The dimensional disruption was spreading beyond the swarm, tearing apart the fundamental structure of space-time itself. Stars began to flicker as reality became unstable around them. Her last transmission reached the human fleet as her fighter finally disappeared completely. "Admiral, the weapon worked. The swarm is destroyed, but the dimensional cascade won't stop. You have minutes before the galaxy tears itself apart." Fleet Admiral Jinho Park received Bora's message aboard his flagship as gravitational waves began tearing through space around them. On every screen, sensors showed the same terrifying readings. Reality was unraveling like a poorly made sweater. "All ships," he broadcast to the human fleet, "prepare for Operation Last Stand. We didn't come this far to let the galaxy die anyway." Dr. Yoon-Young Kim worked frantically at her quantum computers, trying to find a solution. The mathematics were beyond anything she had ever attempted. "We need to create a counterwave," she called out. "Something to stabilize the dimensional disruption before it spreads beyond the core." "What do we have that can do that?" Admiral Jinho asked. Yoon-Young looked up from her calculations, her face pale but determined. "Every human ship in the fleet. If we can coordinate a simultaneous overload of all our fusion reactors, the quantum resonance might be enough to stabilize local space-time." The plan was insane, even by human standards. Every ship would have to overload their power cores at exactly the same moment, creating a galaxy-wide pulse of controlled energy. The timing had to be perfect, and there would be no second chance. "Admiral," called the communications officer, "we're receiving signals from across human space. Every ship, every station, every colony is requesting to participate." The scope of what was happening became clear as reports flooded in. This wasn't just the fleet at the galactic core. Every human vessel in the galaxy was preparing to sacrifice itself to save everyone else. Cargo ships near Earth, mining vessels in the outer rim, even luxury yachts and personal shuttles were powering up their reactors for one final mission. Commander Hyunwoo watched from the Council observation ship as the human fleet began their impossible maneuver. Around him, the alien representatives stood in stunned silence. They had seen their ancient enemy destroyed only to watch the galaxy begin destroying itself. "What are they doing?" the Velothi crystallographer asked, its crystal body dimming with confusion. Dr. So Young monitored the human preparations with growing amazement. "They're going to stabilize the dimensional cascade using pure coordination. Every human ship everywhere acting as one." "Impossible," the Corvani elder flickered. "No species can achieve such precise timing across galactic distances. The coordination required exceeds the capabilities of any hive mind." So Young smiled despite the chaos around them. "They're not using hive mind coordination. They're using something much more powerful." The Jet Collective tilted their multiple heads in confusion. "Explain." "Trust," So Young said simply. "Every human out there trusts that every other human will do their part. No central control, no forced coordination. Just millions of people choosing to work together because it's the right thing to do." Across the galaxy, human ships powered up their reactors in a carefully orchestrated sequence. Captain Park on a mining vessel near Alpha Centauri, Lieutenant Cho piloting a fighter at the galactic rim, civilian pilot Hong flying a cargo hauler near Mars. Each one knew that if they failed, everyone would die. The counterwave began at the galactic core and spread outward at the speed of light. Ship after ship overloaded their fusion cores in perfect timing, adding their energy to the growing pulse of stabilized space-time. The wave raced through Council space, past the fortress worlds where alien civilizations hid behind their barriers. Engineer Ji-Hai Choi coordinated the final stage from Luna Base. Her screens showed the energy wave approaching the solar system. Earth fleet, prepare for final pulse. On my mark. She watched the countdown reach 0 and gave the command that would either save the galaxy or destroy it. All ships overload now. Every human vessel in the solar system sacrificed itself in a brilliant flash of controlled fusion. The combined energy pulse merged with the galactic wave, creating a resonance pattern that forced reality to stabilize. The dimensional cascade stopped just light years from Earth. Space-time settled back into its normal patterns. The gravitational waves that had threatened to tear apart solar systems faded to harmless ripples. Across the galaxy, the void swarm was gone. Not destroyed in any conventional sense, but scattered across so many dimensions that it could never reform. The ancient enemy that had consumed countless galaxies had finally met something it couldn't digest. Pure, stubborn human chaos. Admiral Dongmin Lee stood in Earth's rebuilt command center 3 months later, reading reports from across the galaxy. The Galactic Council had formally requested human leadership in rebuilding galactic civilization. The species that had once considered humans primitive newcomers now sought their guidance. It's ironic, he said to Commander Hyunwoo, who had been promoted to serve as Earth's new ambassador to the Council. They spent 50,000 years perfecting their technology, their society, their military tactics. They thought they had achieved the ultimate civilization. Hyunwoo nodded, looking out at the stars through the command center's main window, and it took the most chaotic species in the galaxy to save them. The formal ceremony took place on the rebuilt Council Station. Representatives from all 12 elder species gathered to witness something unprecedented: the voluntary transfer of galactic leadership to the youngest member species. The Velothi crystallographer's voice carried a note of humility that had never been there before. Humans of Earth, your species has demonstrated capabilities that exceed our understanding. We formally request your guidance in establishing a new galactic order. Ambassador Hyunwoo stood before the assembled aliens, representing a species that had gone from refugees to saviors in less than a year. The Council honors us with this request. Humanity accepts the responsibility of galactic leadership, but only as partners with all member species. It was a diplomatic response, but everyone understood the real message. Humans would lead because they had proven they could do what the elder races couldn't: adapt, improvise, and refuse to accept the impossible. Dr. So Young presented her analysis of the Swarm War to the new Galactic Assembly. Her research had revealed the crucial difference between humans and every other sapient species they had encountered. Every other civilization in our galaxy achieved perfection, she explained. Perfect technology, perfect society, perfect military doctrine. But perfection cannot adapt to the truly unexpected. She showed holographic displays of human battle tactics compared to Council formations. Where alien ships moved in precise patterns, humans created beautiful chaos. Where alien weapons fired with mathematical precision, human weapons embraced randomness. Humans never achieved perfection because we never stopped changing. Our chaos, our unpredictability, our stubborn refusal to accept defeat, these weren't flaws to be corrected. They were evolution's gift to the galaxy. The rebuilt galactic civilization that emerged was unlike anything that had existed before. Human innovation combined with alien wisdom. Human adaptability merged with alien knowledge. The new society embraced both order and chaos, logic and intuition. Captain Tae-ho Yoon, now Admiral of the reformed Galactic Fleet, established new military doctrines that confused traditional tacticians. Units were trained to be unpredictable. Weapons were designed to operate randomly. Battle plans included deliberate elements of chaos. The universe is not a logical place, he told his mixed human-alien officer corps. It's a chaotic, dangerous, beautiful mess. Our job is to be ready for anything. Engineer Ji-hai Choi led research teams that included members from all galactic species. Her new chaos-based technologies revolutionized everything from faster-than-light travel to planetary engineering. The key breakthrough was learning to work with randomness instead of against it. The memorial to the Swarm War was built on Luna, visible from Earth's night sky. It listed the names of every human who had died in the conflict, from Captain Bora Shin, who activated the chaos generator, to the unnamed cargo pilot who overloaded his reactor in the final wave. But the real memorial was the galaxy itself. saved by a species that refused to accept the inevitable. 10 years later, Commander Hyunwoo stood once again at an observation deck, this time aboard a human-designed exploration vessel heading toward the next galaxy. Long-range sensors had detected signs of another void swarm,